Well, hello. It's time for another exciting episode of Pens in Use. This is the show where I talk about the fountain pens and inks that I've been using throughout the week. Sorry, thought of something from school as I'm saying that. So, this is the show where we talk about the fountain pens and inks I've been using throughout the week. So, let's dive into it. If videos like this interest you, where I talk about fountain pens both new and old and at all price points, I would invite you to subscribe. And hey, I'm just looking at my living room and I'm not going to show you, but how long do you walk around stuff before you say, ugh, gotta go? Let us know down in the comments and I'll talk more about that at the end, because we're going to do something light and fluffy as a topic this week. So let's take a look at some pens. So these are the pens and inks I've been using this week. Back again for yet another week is this Monte Rosa Turquoise. It's a Montblanc brand. We bring back the Jinhao 80. This time with a different ink and a different nib. Although if you saw my rodeo this week, you got a preview of the nib. Bringing back the Faber Castell Osmia 823, I think. Anyway, we'll talk more about that one in a minute. Pilot Vanishing Point, Platinum Izumo, Patromatic, a Lamy 2000, and a Pelikan 400 NM. As always, I will be doing my writing in this cognitive surplus theory notebook. So my first pen this week, is the really badly lit Alright, so my first pen this week is this Monte Rosa from Montblanc. I'm calling it Turquoise. It's a very nice hooded nib pen. Cute little diamond-shaped ink windows. And it's from back when Montblanc was making steel nib pens and selling them to students. So Monte Rosa Turquoise. This one has to be on its last gasps of ink. And even if it isn't, it may be time for it to take a little nappy nap. The ink in it is not Montblanc, it's Lamy Turquoise. Did my cue backwards. That's an ink I like very much. It's just a very attractive, well-behaved, and the Lamy fountain pen ink bottles are wonderful. This pen, this would be an okay as a daily writer. I think I enjoy the Lamy 2000 a bit more just because it's a slip cap rather than a screw cap, but still, this is a good pen. This week, I did a rodeo, and last week I did a video review of the Jinhao 80. This is my stealth edition because it's black. The clip barely shows up there. I don't know how to make the lighting make that show up. So I put a Lamy 1.9 millimeter stub nib in it. So we have the Jinhao. Yeah, it's like writing with a marker. 80. And we have the Lamy 1.9 millimeter nib in it. The ink in it is Herbin 1670. And I, by the way, am impressed with how well this pen kept up. I did the Pierre Gustafson test with it in my rodeo with this nib. And even though the feed is for a pen with a much finer nib, I thought it did very well. I was sure I'd have all kinds of ink starvation with a nib this wide. And let's just see if we got any sparkles. Actually, we'll come back to that. I'll tell you why. This is where they'll show up the best, and I want that dry. So we'll do another pen and then come back and do the sparkles. So I have been for weeks saying, well, it's a Faber Castell, because it, says so. Yeah, it's an 882. It's Osmia. And I've been saying for weeks, yeah, I apparently never did a video on this one, but a alert viewer found it. The reason I couldn't find it, and I will see if there's enough ink for this. The reason I couldn't find it is actually a video review that I did as a live stream. Which isn't the best format for a video review, but I guess I was experimenting. So there you go. Has an extra fine nib, and the ink in it is Pelikan. Now, since this pen is basically empty, I'm surprised it's still writing. You won't see it next week. But, this is a pen I reviewed in 2022. So we got to ink a pen up. I almost inked up this Jinhao with this violet. Changed my mind at the last minute. Ooh, we're starting to fade. I don't know if we'll finish this swatch. But anyway, I wanted to use up the Stormy gray, and I wanted to see the sparkles. So, yeah, lots of sparkles there. Sparkle, sparkle. So, sparkly inks, I have a kind of a love-hate relationship with them. Sometimes I really like them. The way they look. But I don't like cleaning them out of the pen. I don't like how they settle inside the pen. I don't like any of that. Okay, so my next pen is this Pilot Vanishing Point. So speaking of pens that you can quickly deploy, like the Lamy 2000, there's a fountain pen that I can quickly deploy. So Pilot Vanishing Point. This ink seems a little dark, but I'm pretty sure I know what's in it. I think it's just started to dry out in the pen. So the ink inside this is Herbin, just slightly dried out. Bleu Myosotis. That's a very nice blue. It's, like I said, a little dried out here, so it's darker than it's supposed to be, because the ink is getting a little more concentrated. So I think this is another pen it's time to take a bath. I was kind of thinking it's time to do a Survivor Pens video on it, which is why I haven't, but now I'm looking at the date, most recent video on it, 2023, so no, not time to do a Survivor Pens video. So I don't know where I got that idea in my brain. Then we have the very beautiful Platinum Izumo. I don't know, something. I gotta work on my lighting. Looks good to my naked eye. The writing looks good, and then I do this, and it's just like, oh, that's lovely. See, I can dial up the exposure. Now the pen shows up, but the writing is bad. And then I gotta dial the exposure back down to do the writing. So, I don't know. We'll get it figured out eventually. So this is the Platinum Izumo. This has a double broad, which in platinum is called coarse, ground to a cursive italic. Now, I had a viewer mention that the nib in it, that's a President nib, which I think is quite a good nib. It's a 18 karat gold nib. But, wishing that Izumo would use some kind of a special nib. And they were a little confused in their comment because they also mentioned the 3776 nib, which is in the Nikaya. And again, why not a special nib? And I don't know. I see this as fancy packaging on a platinum President. But anyway, it's a good nib. So the ink in this pen is Sailor, Jentle, Apricot. A very nice orange. Orange, you're going to be sad when I use this bottle up because they don't make it anymore. And I kind of been thinking to myself, I could save this ink, but for what? So I'm just sticking with my goal of using up ink bottles. Then we get to my Patromatic. Oops, let's show it off here. So, kind of an unassuming orange pen, but did you notice that? The barrel is faceted, which is a nice touch. This is basically a student pen, slip cap. Kind of a 60s or 70s looking nib. And it's a cartridge, it's an empty cartridge converter pen. Okay, lucky thing I didn't start writing with it. So I guess I said that this one's running on fumes. So I think we'll put some of this in it and we'll write with it. So yeah, clearly this pen was not in use this week. I was actually down to 6 pens, but I went and rescued this one. And grabbed this Patromatic to make up my usual 8. And whoopsie! This one didn't turn out so well. So this bottle is getting quite low. I'm holding it on its side right now to fill it. And I am okay with that because, again, I want fewer bottles of ink in my collection. And I can't bring myself to just dump them down the drain. So we're going to accomplish this by using them. And just concentrating on a few bottles at a time. Part of me thought, well, just use whatever, and then as it's used up, it's used up. And it'll take forever to see any progress doing that way. So focus. Just like, if you're somebody who has a lot of debts, maybe focus on one. Maybe you get really knock that one out. I'm no financial advisor, and I've never had much debt except for a house and for a while a car. Okay, so Patromatic, I don't know. Looks like a fine. I don't know. We'll just go with that. The ink in it, of course, is Pelikan. I forgot, this is a little bit of a scratchier nib. So, violet. Not in a bad way scratchy, just scratchier. Definitely more feedback, more sound from the paper. It does lay down a very nice line. I last reviewed this pen in 2021, so it's not yet ready for a Survivor Pens video. Gotta wait till 2026 for that, but I'm thinking I haven't pulled this out in a long time. I was in an orange mood tonight, which is why I grabbed it, and it was down to either this or a Parker Jotter, and I think I'm glad I grabbed this. Of course, the old standby that I'm always using, the beautiful Lamy 2000. Mine has a fine point nib in it. And ink, another one that I'm using up and will never use again because they don't make it anymore, is Omas Black. It's been okay. Last year, I actually bought an extra fine one of these just because it was feathering so much on school paper. But I think it was more because of the whatever black ink I was using at the time, because I'm also using up bottles of black ink, because yeah, who doesn't have multiple bottles of black ink? And finally, the Pelikan 400 NN. And the ink in it is Atramentis. Red Roses. Which is my swatch is going to be a bit lower than the words, but anyway, it's a very nice red. And it smells like red roses. Except I've got a bit of a cold right now, so I'm not really smelling it. Don't worry, had my COVID booster this fall, had my flu shot. Alright, and there we go. So, a little bit of cheating, because I also have a couple of pens inked that you didn't see that are upcoming videos. I actually had a viewer mention a pen, and I just like, why do I not have a video on this? Well, because it's in my pile to be videoed. So this is a Pubeta 63. And if I recall correctly, it's a Bulgarian pen. I'm going to have to remind myself of all the details. So look for this coming up soon. Nice piston in it. A little tight. But hey. And the nib is not tipped, which I'll discuss in that video. It is spoon-shaped. So I might film that video this weekend if I get properly ambitious. So those are the pens and inks I've been using this week, and let's take a look at my face. Alright, so those are the pens and inks I've been using this week. I'm pretty excited. Getting that Jinhao 80, but putting a Lamy Safari nib into it was primo. Getting that Patromatic out was a nice surprise. So, some good things happening in the pen world. I'm just looking at my pens. I thought I had another comment. Oh, yeah, the other comment. I can't remember if I said it in the video, but I probably did. But thank you to the viewer who noted that, yeah, you actually do have a video on this Faber Castell pen. So, I thought I did, but I couldn't find it. And it turned out it was in my live streams, which have to be searched differently from my side. So, interesting. I am not a huge fan of live streaming a pen review, is what I decided, because it didn't turn out that well, and you might have noticed I haven't done it again. I think it can be a fun way to look at a few pens. It'd be a different way to do a rodeo or whatever, but live streams I get off topic too much, so like pens in use, only even less structured. I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do a November live stream. I'm kind of leaning towards the Thanksgiving weekend, but maybe not. Maybe I'll do it a different weekend. Maybe we'll do a Black Friday one just for something different, because this guy is not going to be out shopping on Black Friday, because this guy doesn't like crowds. So this guy needs to get some stuff in the city before all this happens. So rather than wait until Black Friday and brave the crowds of Dickinson or Spearfish or something, I'm going to go this weekend. So Anyway, that's my exciting life. I've said before, I'm the most boring man in North Dakota. But what I really wanted to talk about, I got something in the mail this week. I mean, I need another typewriter like I need a hole in the head, but I found one at a good price. It was an Underwood 5. You can just make out its ancestor here. This is an Underwood... older than a 5. I don't remember its name. And I want to do a video on it, too. I just have to figure out how to do it, because I'm scared it's going to break my desk if I put it on my desk. But anyway, this Underwood 5 I found for a decent price, and I bought it, and it arrived. And the big, huge box is still sitting in my living room after about a week. And yes, it's pushed, but I'm walking around it. And why? Well, the reason is I want to save the box. I've got something specific in mind. Nothing channel related, so that's why I'm not going to get into it. I got something specific in mind for the box and the packaging. It's just not time to do it right now. I got a lovely basement that I could put it in, and I'd still have to walk around it in the basement, but that would be like when I'm hanging up laundry or taking down laundry, because, yeah, I don't have a dryer. Rather than every single day, multiple times a day, every time I walk around the living room. So I tend to have a habit of doing that, and once I set one thing down, then I'll set other things down. Like I walked to the post office and got my mail today, and the junk mail is... I mean, I sat down beside this box, because, yes, I sit on the floor. I'm weird. I sat down on the floor, went through my junk mail, and the junk part of it, because there was only one thing in it, really. It was a bill. The junk part is still sitting there, because I got to take it out to the trash can. Whereas if I'd sat at my normal spot on the couch, the trash can's right there, and I would have tossed it as I opened it. But, you know, I've realized that if I allow a little anarchy into my life, a lot of anarchy starts creeping in just like that. And I just wondered if other people are like that, or you successfully avoid it. And it becomes the new normal. And then you're walking around it, and then when that day comes, you're just like, oh, gotta deal with this. You're like, oh, this room is so big. And since my big decluttering project this summer, I am a lot better about that, but I still am amazed how much anarchy I let myself live with on a daily basis that I shouldn't. And I just wondered if other people are like that or if I'm just weird. Maybe normal people, this is what I aspire to be, put things away when they're done with them. You know, that was part of my decluttering process, is to have a place for everything. And, well, this box doesn't have a place. Once it's served its purpose, it'll be out of the house, but I gotta wait for probably a month or two till it can serve that purpose. And so why do I do that to myself? I don't know. So one of those personal things with me, I guess I got to work on. You know, looking around my desk, it's not too bad. A little disordered, but I disorder rather than stuff that's functionally in the way. You know, I can live with that better. So, I guess where I'm coming down is, are you like me, where you tend to sometimes not see things? One of my neighbors renovated their house. I say they because it's a husband and wife couple. And they had the toilet sitting at the bottom, the new toilet sitting at the bottom of their stairs for weeks and weeks and weeks. And they just walked around it. Why was it at the bottom of their stairs? Because they thought, well, if we put it there, that's going to get on our nerves until we finally just get tired of it and replace the toilet. No, they walked around it for weeks and weeks and weeks. So I'm kind of thinking maybe it's not just me that's like that. The other thing I wanted to mention, I watched a video tonight, actually. It was by Stephen Brown, and he did one on being eccentric. And I don't want to glom off of it or anything, because I don't know that I really have anything to add. I guess the one. Okay, I do have one little thing to add. Is it attention seeking or is it just being eccentric? I'm of the opinion, just live and let live, whatever. As long as you're not bothering me, it's fine. I think we sometimes value conformity too much, which is a message he said. But anyway, I'm going to try to put a link to it in my video description. If you haven't watched it, it's just one I suggest watching. I've never liked this whole notion that we all got to like the same things. Like professional sports, don't care. A lot of people of my gender do care. Oh my God, the Buffalo Bills this year. Don't care. Don't care at all. The only reason I watch high school sports is because my students are playing in them. After I retire, there better be something else to drag me down to watch those, because otherwise I will not. I won't care, because I won't know the kids after a couple of years. So, it just... difference is part of the spice of life. And, I like fountain pens. Maybe you like ATVs and four-wheelers and snowmobiles. Maybe they like canoes. They like typewriters. We all have our things. We all have different interests. And instead of being ashamed of them... Okay, here's a story. And then I'm going to shut up and end this thing. I discovered one of my students, kind of a super jock type student, is a musician. He's playing in bars around Bismarck, doing live performances of country type music. I've even heard him sing. He not at the bar because I don't really go to bars, but he. But during high school, you never would have known that about him. You never would have known that he played the guitar. You never would have known that he liked to sing. He was not in choir. Why? Because he had to fit in. So he wasn't free to express himself until he got away from that. And I'll just say that high schoolers can be cruel. So can adults. In school, they can be cruel, and especially because that's the world it can be hard to escape from. But just knowing there is a world out there beyond that where you can find your people is good. And don't be afraid to express yourself. And just remember that you're paying more attention to yourself and judging yourself a lot more than the people around you are. Most of the people around you are more focused on themselves. If they are attacking you in some way, that's because they're trying to distract away from something about themselves that they don't like quite often. So, first of all, it helps you have a little bit of mercy in your interactions with people, but it's also a reminder that nobody's going to care what you do. I have, 2 weeks ago, I went down to Ekalaka and Camp Crook and Ludlow. Had exactly one person ask me what I was doing the whole time. Walked around filming, going nuts. Nobody said a thing. I get a little self-conscious talking to the camera when there are people around, but nobody cared. And if they did care, that guy in Camp Crook, what are you doing? I'm never going to see him again. So what does it matter? I don't care what he thinks. So I just think, just to piggyback off his message a little bit, you do you, boo. Most people aren't going to care because they're busy being them. All right, I'm going to mention one other topic. I know I said that was it, but I'm just going to mention it because it's bothering me lately. So I've had copyright strikes twice from the same company. The first time was resolved very quickly. This time it's still in dispute. It's all over the Sayonara music that I use with the channel. And it belongs to Camtasia. But I'm getting very close to, because it's always that one. It's never anything else. And, you know, how many times have I used it and I don't get a copyright strike, and then bam, I get one. I'm starting to wonder if it's worth it, and if I want to abandon Sayonara and go to something else. And I don't know. So, you know, I have my driving music video that's, I don't know, different style. I liked Sayonara the first time I heard it. It's just very nice feel. So, we'll see how this copyright strike thing goes. I may end up abandoning Sayonara. I'm going to not use it in my outro tonight. I'm going to use my driving video, because I don't seem to get the copyright strike in the intro. It's always in the outro. So I'm going to use my driving music video, driving video music, whatever, that music, to end this thing. And so that's why. And hopefully by next week I'll have either good or bad news to report on that front. If it's bad news, holy shit, I've used a lot of Sayonara over the years. So I will be very sad. If it's good news, then I have a decision to make. But anyway, I want to thank you for watching. And if videos like this interest you, where I talk about fountain pens both new and old and at all price points, I would invite you to subscribe. And hey, how much do you let anarchy intrude in your living space? Let us know down in the comments. Or maybe you have some thoughts on being eccentric, or on the use of Sayonara in my videos. So I want to thank you for watching. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.